First of all, polyphenols are a research term that describe hundreds of thousands of natural chemicals that are out there. So it's sort of a blanket term for many of these natural chemicals that Mother Nature put into food. Now, these chemicals, I call them Mother Nature's pharmacy, not with a PH, pharmacy, but actually with an F as in farm. Let's see, because these are the things that farmers have been growing, part of our agriculture, and a lot of our plant based foods. Now, polyphenols by themselves are pretty amazing if you study what they can actually do. They're antioxidant. They can activate epigenetic changes that help our DNA perform better. And there's a lot of popular information out there about polyphenols, and I'm telling you, they're present in many, many different types of foods, including all the ones we've talked about so far. But I will also tell you that when it comes to food and health and polyphenols, it's not just about the food and their polyphenols. It's about how our body responds to the polyphenols that you would ingest. So I'm going to tell you, I've done research looking at how we stay healthy. And it turns out that our health is not just a passive state of being, but in fact, the reason we're healthy is the result of our own body's hardwired health defense systems. We've got 5 of them. Angiogenesis, angio, blood vessels, how our body grows our circulation. Talked about how important that is for longevity in our brain. Number 2, stem cells, regeneration. We regenerate all the time, which is why we're still around tomorrow, is that we were regenerating ourselves today. We talked about stem cells, growing our muscles, also really important. Polyphenols activate that as well. Our gut microbiome, we touched on that earlier today as well. Polyphenols actually help to groom the healthy gut bacteria that represents part of our ecosystem. This ecosystem of our gut bacteria controls our immunity, helps us lower inflammation, helps our metabolism, and our healthy gut bacteria texts our brain, as I mentioned earlier, to release social hormones. And so polyphenols that help our gut microbiome, our gut health, are absolutely critical. Polyphenols also are antioxidant, as I mentioned. They protect our DNA from damage that can happen. Now, most people say, well, why do I need to worry about my DNA? Well, because healthy DNA is responsible for healthy proteins, healthy cells, and unhealthy DNA is mutations. And mutations are the reason, the root cause why we develop cancer. And so that's why you want to be careful and why you care about it. And if you don't fix your DNA, repel the incoming missiles that are trying to damage your DNA from the environment, you actually wind up being at a greater risk for being mutated. And we're not talking about the X-Men. We're talking about the average cancer patient that's out there. Nobody wants to be that person. And if you are someone who's dealt with cancer, you don't want to get it again. And so this is really why polyphenols can be important for DNA. And by the way, one other thing, polyphenols slow down the fuse that involves DNA that burn down on the end of our cells. So, it's like the Mission Impossible, strike a match, light the fuse starts burning down. Well, that's really our lifespan. As our DNA starts to wear down and burn down, our life gets shorter and our cellular health, our longevity gets shorter and shorter. So polyphenols slow the burn and in some cases can make the fuse longer again, which is cellular longevity. And that counts as well. And the 5th thing that polyphenols do, and it's part of our health defenses, is they light up our immune defenses. And who hasn't thought about immunity over the last few years? We know that a good immune system protects us from the common cold and other viruses that might be out there. But I think it's really profound to know that our normal, healthy immune system protects us against cancer because we're forming these little microscopic cancers in our body all the time. And the reason they never grow up is that our immune system will take them out. Our immune system normally functions like a cop on a beat, patrolling through the blood vessels, our circulation, the alleyways, the neighborhoods, the highways of our body. And our immune system, when they actually find and spot a microscopic cancer, do what a cop would do. They take a bad guy and throw it into the paddy wagon and take him away. And that's basically why a good, strong immunity is so important on a day-to-day basis to avert catastrophic disease. And polyphenols can actually do that as well. So you ask a very simple question, why do I care about polyphenols? And I'm saying that, look, polyphenols activate our health defenses. And when our health defenses are activated, we stay healthier longer and are able to repel disease.
And speaking of our immune functions and speaking of gut health, I know that one of the things that's really important for our gut is fiber, as you alluded to a few minutes ago. And it seems like, based on the dietary patterns that you're talking about and recommending, these plant heavy diets are going to contain a lot of fiber naturally. If you could explain like why high fiber diets are so important for people and maybe some potential dangers that can happen if people don't eat enough fiber.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a very authentic perspective on this. I'm a medical doctor, an MD, and when I went to medical school, I was taught by my professors that dietary fiber is good to eat because it actually helps you, they call it roughage, and it actually, when you actually get it down into your colon, it kind of scrapes along your colon and and keeps your bowels moving so you're regular and you don't get constipated. And people used to say, well, if your poop doesn't move and it just sits there like a toxic dump, that's actually what causes colon cancer. Well, this was, years ago when I was in medical school. The entire textbook has ripped up and thrown out. And a new way of thinking about dietary fiber is that this fiber, so when we eat something with dietary fiber, let me give you an example. It could be a celery stalk, but I'll tell you something that doesn't seem very fibrous-y, which is a pear. Pear doesn't seem like it has a lot of fiber, but it's got 6 grams of dietary fiber, a lot of dietary fiber. And when we eat a pear, we're absorbing our, sort of an upper gut, all the polyphenols and the vitamins and all these great bioactives. And then what the trickle down is to the lower part of our gut is the dietary fiber, right? That's the quote roughage. Now, what we don't absorb goes down the pike of our gut to feed our bacteria. So the roughage we eat, the dietary fiber, actually is the food that we feed our gut microbiome. Now, if you've got a pet, if you've got a dog, a cat, parakeet, goldfish, you are almost certainly conscientious in feeding your pets every single day. And, many people think about, what's the best food I should be feeding them because you care about them and they pay you back, right, with affection and, to help lower stress. Well, this is the same thing with our gut bacteria. If we mindfully feed our pet gut bacteria that lives inside us, by the way, the number of human cells we are made out of is about 40 trillion human cells. And the number of gut bacteria that lives inside us is 39 trillion. So we're almost 1-to-1 with our bacteria. We got to feed those guys. And we provide them room and board, which is what we're feeding them. And they pay us back for that by releasing these signals and hormones that control our metabolism. They help us use glucose better so we have enough energy and we don't develop pre-diabetes and active diabetes. They help us heal our wounds faster. So when we're cut or we have surgery, we heal up faster. They help us control the amount of body fat that we have. I mean, like you and I sitting here, we might not look like we have a lot of extra body fat, but actually, I'll tell you, you don't have to look big to have a lot of dangerous body fat packed inside a thin frame. They call this, lean obesity. And there's dangerous fat called visceral fat that can be packed around your organs like a baseball mitt, holding your kidneys and your heart and your liver. That kind of fat actually predates all kinds of chronic diseases. And good, healthy gut fights that as well, as in addition to all the things that are good for our mental health and wellness as well. So, what I'm saying is that when we feed our gut properly, it pays us back with all these benefits in all different aspects of our health. And when our gut is unhealthy and damaged, all right, what happens is that bad bacteria overgrow good bacteria. The bad bacteria don't give us all those benefits. And then what happens is that all those functions start to fall apart. Our metabolism goes haywire. Our blood sugars rise. We get pre-diabetes. Our wounds don't heal as well. Our immune system goes down. And then mentally, we start getting more agitated as well. It's interesting. Dysbiosis, which is a problem of our gut bacteria, has been connected to depression, schizophrenia, even autism. And so this connection between our gut and our brain is so profound that it really represents one of the new next frontiers of medical research. And that's really why the simple thing that everyone needs to know about who's watching and listening to this is that, if you have a cat and a dog and you're feeding your cat and your dog, just remember you got gut bacteria too. Feed them well, give them some dietary fiber. They will thank you for it, and you'll actually be healthier overall.
And I know you've said that you don't like to speak in absolutes in terms of diet, but it seems that you're big on fiber, you're big on vegetables, and there's a lot of information out there, I guess, online where people are seeing that it's super healthy to be fully carnivore and have your diet composed of mostly red meat, and that vegetables are bad. Like, what do you say to people that believe that?
Yeah, look, I tell people I'm a scientist, and the interesting thing about science is that it builds upon itself with evidence. And you look for new discoveries that help us understand something better. And sometimes the new discoveries build on the old discoveries and make you more certain that something is a truth, right? And of course, there are lots of ideas out there online. And I think the issue about diet and nutrition and philosophy about food, there is a true science of nutrition and food as medicine. And then food and nutrition also has sort of this very emotional component to it, psychological component to it, where it's almost like a religion. You believe in a god, of religion, a belief, a philosophy, a school of thought, and either you're for it or you're against it. Well, that's not how science works. And so I can only speak as a scientist. All of the evidence that's accumulated to date with real hard scientific evidence has shown that fruits and vegetables, nuts and grains and seeds, healthy oils, seafoods, actually overall are good for you. Okay. There's caveats, of course, but you can always overdo things. But overall, that's a healthy pattern. Listen, I'm not, you mentioned a carnivore diet. I'm not against red meat. I'm actually not a vegan. I'm not a vegetarian, but I eat mostly vegetables. I would say I'm probably like an 80% vegetarian. I'm a very reasonable guy, and I actually enjoy food. I enjoy the tradition. I'm kind of a foodie. I'll eat some meat every now and then, but I really don't think the evidence shows that eating a mostly red meat diet is good for you. In fact, I'll tell you, it's quite the opposite. Most of the evidence is that if you eat heavy proteins, red meat, high in saturated fats, and then you can even go to keto and other sources where you have a lot of butter and all that kind of stuff. All the evidence shows that over the long haul, that dietary pattern does not pay off in good health. You might really enjoy that ribeye, finished off with some melted butter. All right. But I can tell you that if you do that every single day for year after year, your body will pay for that. So I think more of a concept of understanding where the body of health lies, being practicing moderation. And you know what? If you really like to eat something, this is the kind of doctor I am. I'm not about absolutes. Talk to me. Tell me what it is that really matters to you. I'm okay kind of coaching you a little bit on like, okay, you can have a little bit of that, but just make sure that you don't have too much of it. Spend more time thinking about the good stuff, and there'll be less room for the things that aren't so good for you. And you can treat yourself occasionally. I'm okay with that.